I'd just like to welcome you all, I guess, to sunny Bundaberg on the question of energy. Our energy journey probably started a bit earlier than any of this indicates. We started a greenfield site about 8 years ago, and that was, I guess, where I can remember starting to think about needing to make smart energy decisions for the future of the business. At the time we looked at solar PV, and you were probably looking at a 15 to 20 year return on investment period, and guaranteed performance levels of 10 years. So it was disappointingly somewhere we didn't go. So we've watched the increasing energy prices drive, I guess, the opportunities out there. Roger, if you want to show us the next slide. Okay, you can see a little bit there about the company. David Napoli, the founder, kicked it off about 15 years ago. He had a mechanical engineering background and family farming background, and I came on board about 11 years ago with primarily financial background, but from a business environment. The company has developed from initially aiming at replacing overseas food ingredients with local pureed chili to now about probably a third of our business is supplying fresh chilies around the place, another third in that puree area, and the other third which has grown the company probably about twofold in the last 3 or 4 years is with the AvoFresh brand of avocado out in the supermarkets. So those last 3 years have probably kicked along our energy usage, conservatively doubling that from $7,000 to $10,000 monthly accounts to recent ones of $20,000. So the prize has got bigger, and so the energy efficiency target, I guess, benefits have come to the fore. Roger, if we have a look at the next one, a little bit about us operationally. Currently there's in excess of 100 staff, again up from 40 odd 3 years ago. The factory is licensed for 24/7 operation, but we currently operate about 15 to 20 hours a day and 5 to 6 days a week. We still manage to get some days off. The factory is almost entirely electrically powered, but our UHT process, which does require the heat, comes from the LPG fired boiler. We don't have the option of gas being piped in, so we don't have too many options there, and then a cooling tower to cool it back down again. The cool rooms were one of the early targets we looked at due to the fact that they run 24/7 and consistently draw a reasonable amount of power, which led us to things like geothermal replacement of the compressors, and perhaps we could get a return on investment of the high capital cost through the fact that they were used quite extensively. And they, of course, have a demand through the night as well, so solar didn't quite meet that demand. One of the, I guess, the successes we had along the way, the decisions on energy have always ended up being financial, because that's my area of the business. And while I would love to be completely off-grid, and it is a long-term goal of the business to be off-grid to improve our ability to manage our own destiny a little bit more. Each item that we looked at was looked at financially primarily to allow the owners to decide whether to go ahead. And one that has been very successful was initially we used bottled nitrogen gas to flush our product as we package them. We were able to drop the cost, I think, something 20% of what it had been by purchasing and installing an on-site nitrogen generator. So that was a $20,000 investment that was recouped in some 6 months. So there are some good wins out there to do with energy. And while that might not sound like a direct energy saving, a lot of the big cost of using gas cylinders in sunny Bundaberg is that the gas is manufactured and bottled in Brisbane and shipped, 400 or 500 kilometres to us, and then the products are shipped back again. So it certainly contributed overall to energy savings. Okay, as it says at the bottom there, I think I stressed to the people when we were putting this webinar together that the business needs to survive and thrive. So saving energy is definitely not our main criteria. It's energy saving as a cost saving, and a little bit, as I say, to also, I guess, allow you to master your own costs and not be at the whim of governments, nations across the ocean who have wars and push diesel prices up and so on. So our highest cost here, as I guess it may be with a lot of the people listening today, is staffing. So that's driven our energy usage up as we've automated and perhaps replaced people with machines, but that of course has pushed up energy usage. The next slide, Roger. Okay, there's a little bit of an idea of our timeline there. As I say, 8 years ago we looked and discarded it, and then in the last couple of years energy has become topical and opportunities started to present themselves. We looked ourselves and looked at, researching on the internet. Didn't seem to be too much available, and the first prompt we had was a vendor approaching us saying, I can do an energy audit. I think at the time he may have quoted me $1,000 to do that. Absolute bargain. And he produced a list of priorities and costings and savings, and came up with the answer that replacing our existing high bay lights with induction lighting is, when you get into it, LEDs aren't actually the answer for high bays apparently. Induction is the way to go. And we've commenced the program of replacing lights as they become unserviceable with those induction lights. But I did start to question the independence of that audit, as some of the other items on there that were down the list seemed to me to perhaps be worthwhile. And as our relationship developed with the vendor, it became obvious that his primary role was selling these particular lighting solutions. So yeah, independence with a question mark is where I started to realise that all the advice was not as clear cut as it perhaps could be. More recently, again, I had a vendor look at the geothermal option for our cold rooms. My thinking being that the high capital cost may be offset by the very steady, regular 24/7 use of energy, so a consistent saving. This vendor seemed very good and gave me some numbers, didn't offer an audit, but did eventually send me off to an apparently independent auditor who surprisingly again did the same process as the previous one and came up with the answer that a geothermal package was the first thing I should look at on my list, with solar PV second. Then through that actual auditor and perhaps being a little bit forthright and questioning their independence, I'm now in the process of looking at solar PV using one of the online comparison sites where you can throw up your needs and so on. The interesting thing with solar PV over this 2-year period is that I've had a number of people arrive at the premises or ring up and make an appointment. They have all looked at the same. During this process, we actually went to competitive power, to a competitive power option, whatever the correct terminology is there, and dramatically dropped our cost per unit of power, and that was probably where I first become aware also of the huge cost here on this side anyway of the network charges, and that there was a higher premium on reducing your peak usage than there was on actually reducing your overall. As I say, in and the areas kilowatts to actually 200 kilowatts. Different than look at that kind of data and give more detailed graph-based proof that we needed different size feeding units on this. So the reason I became involved today was if people can actually get, if people can actually get access to independent advice, such as the Food and Grocery Council's on website, that would have been wonderful 2 or 3 years ago, and may have made it easier to make some of the decisions we've had to make. As I say, I expect to have a 100 kilowatt system on the roof within 6 months, and now in the process of trying to figure out which unit technology may be the best, which offering may be the best, and those sort of things, and then how to finance it. So